Okay, so real quick, before we get into anything, I just want to ask you something. Has your phone ever rung and you just didn't answer it? Not because you were driving, not because you were in a meeting. You were just sitting there, fully available, and you still let it go to voicemail. And then you sat with that weird mix of, okay, good, it stopped. And also, I'm a terrible person. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Because if that has ever happened to you, I promise you have spent way too much time thinking there is something wrong with you. And I really want to change that today. Because the truth is so much more interesting than you're just anxious or you're just antisocial. So let's actually get into it. First, the way the world sees this. If you are someone who struggles with phone calls, people have opinions. You've probably heard them. You avoid things. You're in your head too much. You're a bad communicator. You're that friend who never picks up. And the worst part is not even what other people think. The worst part is what you start to think about yourself after hearing it long enough. You start keeping score. Oh, I missed another call. Oh, I texted back instead of calling. Oh, I turned my phone over so I wouldn't see it ringing. And every single time, there's this low-level guilt that just kind of lives in the background of your day. You watch other people answer their phones mid-bite, mid-sentence, mid-everything, and they're completely fine. They hang up and go right back to what they were doing. No drama, no exhaustion, nothing. And you're sitting there like, how? How do you just do that? Because for you, it's not nothing. It never has been. Here is where everything changes. What if I told you this has nothing to do with the person calling? Nothing to do with whether you like them or care about them. Nothing to do with your social skills or your maturity or how good of a friend you are. What if it's just about how your brain is built? There's a researcher named Elaine Aron. She spent a huge chunk of her career studying something she called the highly sensitive person. And what she found was that somewhere around 15 to 20% of people, that's not a small number, have a nervous system that simply processes everything more deeply than average. Not more dramatically, not more irrationally, just more deeply. These people notice more things in a room. They feel the emotional weight of a conversation longer after it ends. They pick up on tiny shifts in tone that most people completely miss. And their brain, at any given moment, is already handling a much heavier load than the average person's brain is. So now picture this. You're sitting in your room. You're reading or you're thinking or you're just existing and your brain is already doing its thing, already managing a lot, already full. And then your phone rings. No heads up. No warning, just ring, right now, pick up, talk, be on. For most people, that's fine, they just pick up. But for your brain, that ring is not an invitation, it's an interruption, a full stop. It's like someone walking into a room mid-conversation and just starting to talk at you without knocking. And your brain has to drop everything it was already carrying and completely reset. In 2 seconds, while the phone is still ringing. That reaction you have, that freeze, that dread, that urge to just let it ring, that is not weakness. That is your nervous system saying, I was not ready for this. Give me a second. But okay, let's say you did know the call was coming. Let's say it was scheduled. You had time to prepare. It's still exhausting, and here's why. When you talk to someone in person, your brain is taking in so much more than just their words. You're watching their face. You're reading the room. You can see if they're tense or relaxed. You can tell if they're actually fine or just saying they're fine. All of that extra information, the expressions, the body language, the energy in the room, it all helps your brain understand what's really happening. It helps you feel safe in the conversation. A phone call takes all of that away, all of it. Now it's just a voice. And your brain, which is used to working with a full picture, suddenly has to try and figure everything out from half the information. So it works harder. It listens for every tiny pause, every shift in tone. It tries to fill in all the blanks. Is that silence because they're thinking, or because I said something weird? Is their voice flat because they're tired, or are they upset with me? Did that come out wrong? You can't see them, so you don't know. So your brain just keeps going, guessing, checking, second-guessing for the entire call. And when it ends, you feel it. You feel that kind of tired that doesn't make sense from the outside. You just talked on the phone for 15 minutes. Why are you exhausted? Because your brain was working the whole time, running on overdrive the whole time, trying to make sense of a conversation without half the tools it normally uses. It wasn't just a chat, it was a workout. And then there's this last thing, and honestly, this one hits the hardest. Some people can think on their feet really easily. A question gets asked, an answer comes out. No gap, no problem. That is genuinely not how everyone works. Some people need a beat. They need to sit with a thought before they say it out loud. They want what they say to actually match what they feel, not just whatever comes out first under pressure. That's not a flaw. That's just how they're built. And texting works for that. Messaging works for that. Even leaving a voice note works for that, because you can think for a second before you record. A phone call doesn't give you that. A phone call says right now. No pause, no draft, no second chance, just talk. And if you're someone who needs even 10 seconds to find the right words, those 10 seconds feel like an eternity of dead air that you're convinced is ruining everything. So you hang up, and then the replay starts. Why did I say it like that? I should have said this instead. Did I sound weird? Were they waiting for me to say something and I just went blank? And you're tired not just from the call, but from the version of yourself you felt like you had to be during it. Rushed, unfiltered, not quite you. That's real. That's a real thing that happens to real people, and nobody talks about it. So what do you actually do with all of this? Honestly, the first thing is just to let yourself off the hook a little. Sending a call to voicemail is not rude. Texting back instead of calling is not rude. Needing to respond in your own time, in your own way, that is not you being difficult. That is you knowing what you need. And here's the thing about people who know what they need, they're actually better to be around when they show up. Because they actually show up, fully. Not half present, not overwhelmed, not just trying to get through the call. Actually there. The version of you that texts back when you've had a moment to breathe. That version is more present than the version that picked up just to avoid the guilt and spent the whole call somewhere else in their head. Protecting your energy is not the same as shutting people out. It's making sure you still have energy left to give. So keep do not disturb on if you need it. Take your time writing back. Let the call go to voicemail and listen to it when you're ready. These are not failures. These are just how you work, and how you work is not broken. Your brain feels a lot. It notices a lot. It carries a lot, and it takes communication seriously enough to want to do it right. That's not something to fix. That's actually something kind of worth appreciating about yourself. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support. Take care of yourself. You know how to do that better than anyone.